Hey, what's going on? And welcome back to the Stepping Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host Thomas Keenan coming at you today from not my home office. I'm traveling. I'm in Utah right now, sticking myself into like this tiny little closet of an office and a workspace, but it's working. And sometimes we got to do what we got to do. We call it doing what's required. I got my man Irvin Retiz with us today, and Irvin and I. Well, first off, this is not Irvin's first go at this podcast with me. We did an episode together. Shit, dude, it's probably like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago at this point. And I want to just welcome you back to the show, and I want to dive into some of the cool things you're doing, some of the shit you've accomplished, and a lot of the growth I've seen you have, not just on a business level, but also a personal level in the last couple of years. So, man, glad to have you here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we got to. It's funny. I took a couple of minutes to get onto this call here today. I was like, hey, man, hold up. I gotta wrap something up. I've been to Austin. Okay, I've been living in Texas now for 3 years. And for the record, you live in Austin currently. Your business is. I've been to Austin twice. Once was about 2 years ago. Someone invited me down there for a real estate conference and had a ticket for me to go just so I can kind of see what it was about. I did that. And the second time was last week. I drove down from Dallas. I was actually speaking at an event there, and you came in and supported, and it was cool. So I appreciate you doing that. But I tell you all this because I just booked a flight from New York to Austin on September 14th. There's another event that's actually happening down there. Austin seems to be the event hub this year. Like everyone's got a fucking event in Austin. So I booked this flight to head down there. So I'm coming back down September 14th. And as always, man, I'll reach out to you and try to connect. Afterwards, after we get off this podcast, I'll send you the link to that event. Maybe something that you want to get interested in taking a look at as well. And that's just me knowing you as an individual and knowing some of the things that you're looking to do in your life and business moving forward, not just the electrical company. So let's backtrack here. Give me a little bit of info on you for the listeners. Give me where you are, what you're doing. Talk a little bit about the electrical company, and then I want to transition and talk about some of the pop-up events and stuff that you're doing now and the success you're seeing with them.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you said, like I'm in Austin right now. I've been here for a little over 2.5 years. So, and then prior to this, I lived in Houston for 2.5 years where I actually started the electrical company. So I started the electrical company in Houston, was there for 2.5 years. Then I was like, I'm going to close shop here. Fucking, I'm moving to Austin. I like it better, right? The city's better. So I had to restart the business again in Austin. So now we've been here like 2 years and 8 months.
Yeah.
So that's my full-time thing. That's what's taking most of my time, my energy. And then like you're saying, I'm doing a lot of events now, construction-based podcasts. To bring awareness to the industry as far as like, hey, people don't take care of themselves.
Uh-huh.
It's a very demanding physical labor job.
Yep.
People don't take care of their bodies, and they should. So that's why I'm doing the pop-ups events. That's why I'm doing the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm taking care of myself too, to be like the leading by example, right? Because that's the only way to lead.
Yeah, sure. So, like go back a couple of years. We met each other, I don't know, 2.5 years ago, whatnot. We both went to kind of like a destination style mastermind. We were there for a couple of days hanging out in Florida. It was the middle of COVID. It was quite amusing because COVID did not exist in Florida when we were there. Everything was open as if it was just normal business. Yeah. But the person that you were then versus the person you are now is completely different. And I mean that in many different aspects, right? So like the Irvin that I met at that in-person mastermind was, a little bit quieter, a little bit more reserved, younger, clearly. Like you got facial hair and shit now, which I think is awesome. Shit, I'm being a dick. But even your physical stature has changed tremendously. And that is a big piece of the puzzle. I know it's something that you're passionate about, is actually taking care of you, taking care of your body. And like, tell me, and I agree with you also with your pop-ups and wanting to help the construction industry, because I've experienced that myself too. Being a guy who was in the blue collar trades for many, 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 many years, over 20 plus years of my career, that was the last thing that you worried about. right? Because like, dude, you wake up and when the client calls, the customer calls, the boss calls, the shop calls, like whatever you're doing as far as the industry is concerned, like whenever they call, you just get up and go. And in my last service-based company, I'm sure it's similar to yours as well. We didn't have a set start time. Oftentimes it was, hey, Mr. Customer, what's most convenient for you? And when we were installing tracking devices in vehicles, they wanted usually one of two options. They either wanted us there early in the morning before the vehicles left for the day, or they wanted us there in the afternoon when they came back into the yard. So that usually meant like a 6 a.m. or a 7 a.m. start time, or a 3 to 4 p.m. start time in the afternoon. So, and then you can go to a job site and work early mornings for 3-4 days. And then come Friday, it switched to an afternoon appointment. I talk about fucking your whole schedule up. So I tell you that because the unfortunate part of the blue collar industry is it leaves you in a reactionary mode at all times, right? It's very hard to transition to that proactive piece. And I think it's something that you've done really well. It's something that I've had to do, and it's taken me a long time to actually make the transition to what it is now. But when you switch from that you switch from the reactive and you get into that proactive state, lots of amazing, cool changes happen in your life. Like for you, physically, you've changed tremendously because you put a lot of effort into it. Same with me, I do as well. I'm not as dialed in with my food as you are, just for the record. But I totally get what you're trying to do there and helping these guys, because I was also on the opposite side of that coin where I didn't help myself for many years, and the health issues started to pop up. So I think it's really good that you're doing it. I commend it tremendously. But tell me a little bit about what inspired you to actually start taking care of you from a health and fitness perspective.
Yeah, it's funny because like I've never worked out like before I actually started working out in March 2020.
Yeah.
So basically like around the whole time that this COVID shit like started popping, like that's around the same time that I started hitting the gym, like, like counting my food and actually like, going 100% in it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't planned or anything, but it was just like, I just felt like it was time, everything kind of lined up for me to go. But prior to that, like I was kind of half-assing it for like 6 months or so, but even then, like I hated going to the gym, dude. Like high school, college, I fucking hated it. Like with a passion, I'm like, gym, fuck that. I don't want to go to the fucking gym, for what? But just listening, always like diving my toes into that entrepreneurial, like people, right? Influencers and mentors and listening to a little bit more of this and this and this. Like it just eventually, I don't know, it just put me into like a state of like, I was half-assing the business too at the time, so it put me in this state of like, man, what the fuck am I doing? Right? I'm just letting the wind just take me, like the grocery bag that you see just kind of floating around the parking lot.
Yeah,
like letting just life take me like that. It's like I really need to dive in and go all in the business because I already had it. I was just half-assing it. So just with me realizing that, and then realizing that I don't want to be skinny my whole life. Like I actually want to look good, right? I want to be bigger. I hate going to the gym, but like I need to do it. Like I just need to do it. And I don't know, like everything just lined up for me to just be like, fuck it, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was at the same time that I started they're trying to do 75 hard. So it's like 75 hard is a mental fitness program, but it also helps with business,
Yes.
Like, you've done it. So everything was just lined up perfectly.
Yeah. I agree with you. And my version of it was definitely a bit different than you. I started much later in life with it. And I've talked about it on the podcast here before, but I'll give a reminder in case we get new listeners. When I was 35, Jennifer, my wife at the time, came to me and said, hey, I'm pregnant. Cool. We were trying to have kids. So that right there was the spark. That was a life-altering event that was like, hey, it's time for you to get your shit together. And like you said, I was like that plastic grocery bag just getting blown around the parking lot in life and in business. Like whatever happened. I was really good at what I did. And I was pretty successful. I wasn't like dumb successful with it. But, had money. I wouldn't say I had a lot of money, but lived a comfortable life and had money in the bank, had a business already, had a nice house or a decent house, I'll call it that was, stable and I had a good roof over my head. Like I didn't yearn for anything. I always had food in the fridge. Like I wasn't worried about anything ever, but I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I knew that I had a lot more inside of me, but I had no idea of where to go and how to tap into it. So again, we don't ever think of, oh, we got to work on the person before we work on the business because, we're all perfect inside. Right. And then I'm being funny here. Okay. Because it's fucking lying. So I had the courage to go and look out and hire a business coach. The business coach led me to other things. Those other things led me to dialing in the business. But when you dial in the business, you start to surround yourself with a different group of people. That group of people that I surrounded myself with, I noticed like, hey, that guy over there is successful. That chick over there, she's doing really well. Like, what's the difference? Because I don't think they're any smarter than me. I don't think they work any harder than I do. Like, what's the edge that they have that I don't? And it was over several interactions and surrounding myself with them at several conversations and listening to other people who were doing some cool shit in life, shit that I wanted to achieve as well and do. And I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It was like, oh, every one of these people, every one of them takes really good care of themselves from a physical perspective. I'm not saying that these people were IFBB pro bodybuilders by no stretch of the imagination, right? But they weren't fat. They were conscious of what was going in their pie hole, as Mark likes to call it, right? They were in the gym, I would say a minimum of 3 days a week. Okay, cool. They had a morning routine. They followed that routine to a T as much as they possibly could. And occasionally shit happens. And not only was it that, but it was also the mindset shift. So you start fixing the business and you realize, oh, if I'm going to fix the business, I got to go fix some of the mindset and the physical pieces of me too. You start working on those things and it's a big giant circle and it comes back around. It's slow as fuck, by the way. It comes back around and by you taking care of you physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of that shit, right? It starts to elevate all of you and all of the business. That was just my experience with it. And, I've talked about it as well. Like it doesn't end. Like there is no end point for this. And for those people who are listening, who are like, oh, I'm cool. I want to start at 2, or I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm going to put my 75 days in after that. I want to go fuck off. Yeah, cool. Don't work that way. Doesn't work that way. So, all right. You have done 75 hard probably more times than I have at this point, which I think is awesome. You said 2020 was the first go with it. Yeah. What were some of the biggest takeaways that you had by going through that on round 1? Like what changed in you? What changed in your head, but also what changed in your body?
Well, one of the biggest lies that everybody tells themselves is when they look at the list of the shit that they got to do is they don't have time. That's one reason why it took me 6 months to start it, is because I was like, this is too much. I don't have time. I got, at that time I was already going all in the business. I was like, I don't have time for this shit. But when I started, I was like, bro, I have time. I just need to manage it right. My priorities are fucked up. Mm-hmm. So what I started to do, is now that I figured out that I need to manage my time better because I have time, is I started to hire more people that can take care of like the on-site work. So I don't have to be there all the time. I could just go and check up and then go to the park and run, So I structured my time better. I started waking up like at, was it 3:45? The entire 2020, like I started to wake up at 3:45 every day. So it just like got me super dialed in. And that was like my first taste of that early wake up.
Yeah.
Because before that I was waking up at 6. I don't know where I went from 6 to 3:45 and then with like a really good structured day. So like that whole 2020, dude, I was like super dialed in with time management.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing.
Yeah. So if you're waking up at 3:45 in the morning, you're probably going to bed at like 8:30.
Yeah.
All right.
Not really.
So let's say even if you're in bed by 10, which is not a tremendous amount of sleep, right? It's like 5.5 hours.
I would go to sleep like 10 or 12.
Okay. Okay. And you're younger at the time too, so I
Yeah.
could see it. But my point here is if you're getting up that early
Yeah.
and you're going to bed early as well, because you kind of have to if you're getting up that early, it leaves less time for fucking around after hours, like going out to the bar and hitting the booze.
For sure.
Right now, full transparency, you and I have gone out to the bar and hit the booze together.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that was the Florida trip. But since then, one of the things that I've learned and one of the things I've eliminated from my life, and I think you have as well, is like I just cut the alcohol out after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wind up going through 75 hard, and I've done I've done 2 rounds of 75 hard, and I've done phase 1 and phase 2 a handful of times as well. I refuse to do phase 3, by the way.
Bang.
Um, so going through all of that, and with my first round of going through 75 hard, my biggest fear was, wow, this is going to be really hard to give up alcohol for 75 days. Because up to that point, I had been working out for about 2 years, but not seeing any real progress because I wasn't dialed in. I was giving it, fast action. Drinking a gallon of water wasn't terrible, but I wasn't doing it every day. Reading, no problem, because I was already doing that. 2 workouts a day, that was definitely going to kick me dead in the dick because I was only doing one, and I was doing one, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 times a week, not 7 days a week, twice. But the one that scared me the most was actually giving up the alcohol. I wasn't sure if I could. And I'm not proud of that. But here's what I will tell you, and I'll tell the listeners as well. That was the easiest thing of the whole whole 75 days was no alcohol. Really was. Because you're so dialed in. And after a couple of weeks, you start seeing so much progression. You start seeing your body and your mind working better that it's almost like you don't even want to go for it.
Yeah.
So fast forward October 9th of 2022, which we're coming up on a year. I went in for my second round of 75 hard, and I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks, probably a couple months at that point. I'm like, you probably feel this way too occasionally. You're like, man, I need a reset. And the reset is just, hey, go into the program for a bit and let the program work its magic and do the reset for you. So I'm feeling this way for a couple of months. I just had a massive career change, got out of, my last position, full-time in Step It Up Academy. And now I'm actually traveling a lot too. I'm on the road a lot. Like I'd say every 2 weeks, I'm out of the house. And the first time I did 75 hard, I was stuck in New York during COVID, similar to you. And like, cool, you're home, just make it work. And it really wasn't that big of a deal to make the schedule work. But now, back into society, traveling a lot, traveling by air. So, you can get stuck in the airport real fucking easy these days. You're always rolling the dice there. And it definitely added a layer of complexity to 75 hard for the second round. But I started October 9th, and I had a buddy of mine, him and his fiance at the time, now wife, were like, hey, why don't you come do this with us? And at first I was like, God damn it, I can't fucking believe they just asked me this. Like I was kind of pissed. At the same point in time, I had been thinking, in my mind, like, hey, it's time for you to do this, time for you to do this. And here they are literally like calling me out saying, hey, you can come do it with us. It's like, fuck. So jumped in, start doing it. October 9th, we start, go through, all of October. Halloween is a pretty good holiday in my neighborhood, right? Where the kids go trick-or-treating and the parents follow behind with their cups, and every house you go to, there's alcoholic beverages, right? So cool. Went through that, didn't have a drink. I had my first live event November, I think 1st and 2nd of last year, right? Had 50 people that flew in from all areas of the country, came into Dallas and came in for a 2-day event that I hosted. Had a VIP dinner one of those nights and went out and interacted with people. Didn't overeat because you got to stick to the diet, and also didn't touch a drop of alcohol. Fast forward, November comes around. We get through the whole month of November. We get through Thanksgiving, right? The whole intent of the program is to get you through some of these things like birthday parties and traveling and holidays. Like it's meant to be 75 days. And the reason it's so long is so you can't avoid the bullshit. Yeah. You have to go through some of those hard things. And I wound up finishing, I think like 3 or 4 days before Christmas was the final day. And I I remember just feeling different that time. Like, yeah, I don't mind if I have a drink or so here and there, but I don't want to go back to drinking every day. And cool, got out of it. Day 76, I definitely dropped the ball. Right, I went to a restaurant, had a greasy ass cheeseburger and a frozen margarita. And the day after that, we'll call it day 77, I felt like fucking death because my body had been so clean at that point, hadn't had any of this crap in me.
Well,
Right. Yeah, I just felt terrible. So, all right, cool. Cut that out for a little while, and then dabbled in alcohol a little bit here and there up until about February of 2023. And then I was like, you know what, man, this shit here just isn't serving me right now at all. And that was it. That was me pulling the plug and saying it's time to evolve, right? What was it for you, especially with the alcohol? Because you probably have situations like I do where people kind of look at you funny, like, "Hey, man, I've had drinks with you before, and now all of a sudden you're not having drinks." Like, what was the push for you to actually pull the plug on alcohol?
yeah, I was never like a huge drinker. I mean, my high school days and college days, I mean, like there was times where I would go out to the club. Like I was driving, would go out to the club, and like I'd be driving home drunk. There's times that I blacked out, and I didn't even know how the fuck we got home, and I was driving.
Mhm.
Looking back at those times, I'm like, bro, I could have fucking killed somebody.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck were you doing? You know what I mean? So those were like looking back at those moments. Those were times of regret. Where I'm like, bro, like now, like I fucking escaped, you know, prison or death or something.
Mhm.
So that was one for sure. But then again, like us outside of going out, you know, if we had, you know, family handouts or parties, I would drink. It's just not. I mean, I would get hammered sometimes, but aside from that, like you know, we'd go out to the restaurant. I did get like one drink. You know, I wouldn't leave the restaurant drunk or anything like that.
Boom.
So it's just like on occasions where I would drink. Um, but then like I think even like at family, you know, when it was Christmas parties or whatever, you know, the whole family gets together. If they knew I was on the program, like they knew I was going to drink,
Mhm.
right? And then one time, I forgot what it was. I think it was Thanksgiving of last year. One of my aunts is like, it's like, "Are you doing your diet?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well, how come you're not drinking with us? Come on." And I'm like, "Nah, like I'm good. Like, I don't want to drink." And even at that point, I was still drinking, but just that day,
Mhm.
I didn't want to drink because I don't know. Like I think something came about me with like I looked at everybody and everybody was drinking, and I'm like, look at these soft ass people.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm not fucking doing this shit. And I walked around like I was walking around with my fucking jug, yeah, my water, feeling like elevated, right? Feeling like a better person, and it just made me feel good.
Yeah.
And then I think just coming around Christmas, I was like, I don't know, like I just don't fucking need it. Like for what?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just, every time I drank, it made me feel like shit. You know,
Yep.
every time I drank, like I did some dumbass shit, or I
Mhm.
felt like shit the next day. You know that.
Yep.
So like I just don't need it. You know, and when most people would wait till after the holidays
I don't know.
thinking or to say, "Oh, I quit."
Yeah.
Like I decided to quit before Christmas.
Mhm.
You know, during the times that people drink the most,
Yep.
like Christmas, New Year's, and I'm just like, nah, like that's it. Like, I'm done. And I had already stopped before. I think the record is like the record that I've gone that I went without drinking was like 440 some days.
Nice.
But I had already gone, you know, like so
Mhm.
long without it. But then I just thought to start occasionally. But then now I'm like, that's it, bro. Like I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't need it. Fuck for.
Yeah. So I applaud you on that because it's definitely and just for the record, how old are you now?
28.
Yeah, you're 28. So I'm going to be 44 next month. Um, at your age, dude, I don't know if I would have had the. Yeah, I know I didn't have the ability to mentally make that connection and make that change myself. But I was also surrounded by people at that point in my life where alcohol was everything. And if I had attempted to make that decision or choice, I would have been exiled or, like just put out there to fucking dry kind of deal.
Yeah.
So good for you. So go back into, I don't know, February ish. Maybe even January of last year. Good friend of mine said, "Hey, this book you should check out. I think you'll get a lot from it." And it's like you, like I'm always looking to better myself, personal development, maybe open my mindset and expand into different areas and learn something from a different perspective. Okay, cool. So the book's called Food of the Gods. And have you heard it or read it?
No, but it sounds like it's interesting.
Yeah, you would enjoy it, sir. And I'll give you a little snippet here of what it's about. And it does tie into alcohol as well, but alcohol is not the main point of this book. So the book is Food of the Gods, and it's really it's mostly around the consumption of psychedelic mushrooms.
Okay.
And it's not saying go do them. It's giving you some history and connecting some dots from our human history. And also the author puts together a couple of basically hypotheses that says, hey, this is how I think shit actually went down and why things happened, which is kind of wild. Tied in a lot of stuff that comes from the religious areas into what he thinks happened because of the consumption of psychedelics. So his whole theory here is that we know that humans, like Homo sapiens, basically came from the African plains. That's where we originate from. So the apes come down from the hills and whatnot, come into the African plains, and in the plains there's cows and there's all sorts of antelope and all that kind of stuff. Well, what do animals do when they eat? They shit. Everybody poops. That's a book, by the way. Parents will know that one, right? So they shit, and what happens is the shit is fertilizer. Poop's fertilizer. Like, we know this. It's anyone who grows a garden at home, and you know. Yeah. So it takes that fertilizer to start fermenting and having the mushrooms grow, right? And I don't know all the technical terms of it and whatnot, but the shit starts to grow, the mushrooms start to pop up, and as evolving humans, even more in the ape-like state at this point, we come down and we're foraging for food. Like, we got to eat, we're starving. And we start grabbing these things and consuming them, magic mushrooms. What winds up happening is, obviously, you trip your balls off, okay? But on the scientific side of things inside your brain, you wind up opening up and rewiring a lot of the neural pathways inside of your brain. So this author's whole theory here is that because of the consumption of these mushrooms over the course of, hundreds, if not thousands of years, it helped develop many of these centers in our brain. And one of them in particular happens to be the center of the brain that's responsible for language. Okay, cool. I can kind of track on this and follow along. So I thought it was very interesting. Go read this book. Actually, I listened to it in audio because it was my gym book. I'd hit it going to the gym every morning and get through it. So listen to this thing, understand it, cool. And then in the book, he hits on a section of alcohol. It's like, okay. And he's pretty much over there like bashing alcohol the whole time, but not in a bad way. We hard liquor and stuff. And here's a couple of things, right? Alcohol has been around for thousands of years, right? Any culture in the world right now that you go into, alcohol is prevalent at some level, right? You can go into the jungles of Amazon and you're going to find someone there who's making some form of alcohol, okay? So humans have been consuming alcohol for a really long time. It is very acceptable within society, right? Versus, let's call it any other drug like psychedelics and marijuana or whatever it is, and very natural things there are not acceptable, but alcohol is. And his theory here is that the higher ups, the bigger people who are truly in charge, have intentionally allowed alcohol and have promoted alcohol to be consumed by the masses because alcohol disconnects you from spirit. Okay, so spirit to you could be spirit, it could be God. I don't care, whatever your background or thought process is. But by you consuming alcohol, it disconnects you from a lot of our natural connections to the universe. Right? So cool. You want to keep people average? Feed them fucking booze nonstop and put them in front of organized sports.
Yeah.
You literally can control the population. So, Yeah, I just thought it was really awesome read. He kind of just gave a really cool perspective on alcohol and the powers of it and how it's been used to control people for thousands of years. And after reading that and doing my own research and having my own literal life altering events of not drinking, like you said, every bad decision I've ever made in my life, if you look at it, because hindsight's always 2020. Every bad decision I've ever made, alcohol was involved.
It,
Everyone. So after that, I was like, no, dude, forget it. That this shit just isn't serving me anymore. And I won't sit here in front of you today and tell you that I'll never have a drink again. Right? I just won't. I think there may be a time that it's appropriate. But right now in this season of my life, like, nope, I don't need it. Don't want it. Don't want it. All right. Let's switch back to business here for a minute.
it all
What
correlates, dude.
is going on?
It all correlates.
Tell me a little bit about your true passion and what you're trying to do. Because you and I both know that electric for you is, we call it a vehicle. It's a vehicle to get you where you truly want to go and how you truly want to help people. Tell me a little bit about, what you really want to do and what your plan is to go out there and do it.
Yeah. Well, I think one, like the thing that's made like the biggest impact in my personal life is actually going to the gym. Because it's, at first it was about I want to look bigger, I want to look better. At first it was about that, but when you're going for so long every single day, it's like it's not even about that anymore. It's just the feeling now, right? It's like if you're stressed, you go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're sad, you go to the fucking gym, right? Like the gym is the cure for like everything, at least for me, or for a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So I know the way it makes me feel, at the way that it's improved my life over the past over 3 years or over 3.5 years or so.
Mhm.
So I figured out that was something that's missing in the construction industry. Like, bro, nobody takes care of themselves out here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like I was born with these guys. Like I've worked on sites since I was 10 years old.
Mhm.
I've seen, how these guys live and operate on and off the site, right? After hours, before hours, during the hours. Like it's crazy. So like my thought process was to combine the two, combine health and fitness and combine construction. And then I thought, well, shit, like if it's something that's missing in the industry, like why wouldn't I offer it to people? So that's kind of like what I came up with is my purpose in life is to help blue collar workers like win in all areas of life that matter. Health, the career, because in the career they still stay at the lowest level, right? The tech for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Their relationships, because they don't know how to connect with people, especially not the clients. Like I know techs, they just say, well, I don't have the parts to finish this. I'm just going to leave and come back tomorrow. Hopefully the client doesn't realize I'm gone. They just leave. And then their purpose, because they feel like they don't have a purpose, right? They're just floating through the parking lot like that grocery bag. And they're born into a family that's always been a tech. They feel like they can just that they're always going to stay at that low level, but now you can reach the higher level. Yep. So it's like, do you believe that you deserve the higher level or not?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what my purpose and what my mission, what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I like it. So what are the things you're doing to support that and kind of, put the ball in motion? And you've had good success with it at this point. You've been doing a lot of smaller, I call them pop-up events in the Austin area.
Yeah.
So what sparked the idea for those? And tell me a little bit about the format, because here's what I think before you go into that. Right, I'm going to go on my soapbox here for a minute. Okay, as a fellow person who also hosts events, I think in the year of 2023 that the event space has been oversaturated. Okay, like everyone and their aunt, mother, brother, sister, and their fucking half a tooth hillbilly cousin Billy, they're hosting an event this year. And half the motherfuckers out there have no right hosting an event, in my opinion here, because I don't think they've done shit in life and business. Yeah. Okay. With that being said, it's been a very hard place to market and get people to attend events in the year of 2023. And I've seen this with friends of mine who've hosted events. I've seen this with some real big name influencers out there. I've even seen this with my own events. Right. So I think your structure here for these mini kind of pop-ups that aren't a arm and a leg, there's not massive travel involved to come attend the event. I think it's a brilliant idea. And I think people who are listening to this podcast who are interested in hosting events, that they should consider hosting these smaller events before going into something that's a little bit larger. So give me the structure. Give me like, hey, why is it small? They're local. What the format looks like, and who you're trying to get into the room for these events.
Yeah. Well, my business is local, right? So I was like, I need to stay local. Like Austin's where I'm at, so I need to make the biggest impact here. They have to know my name. Yeah. So that was one obviously, is that I need to keep it local.
Yep.
I tried to do them in the past year at our shop, but I feel like it's just not the right setting for it, you know. So I was like, well, we need to go out somewhere. You know, why not go somewhere where people like to hang out and chat and
Right. Maybe get some drinks.
yeah, feed themselves, you know, food and drinks. Like, I'm honest, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't drink, but I can enjoy some good food. Like I target breweries that I look at the menu, I look at the pictures of the food, and I'm like, okay, it looks good food, so I'm gonna choose that spot. Looks like it's a big venue, so I'm gonna choose like that spot and email them and reserve like a section, right? Like table or two, whatever, for us, or pre-order food or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, like beer and food is what people conversate over. So, like that was kind of like the idea of it. Because like, you know, who's gonna shy away from free that, right? Oh, then yeah, like I see everybody hosting events, right? But it's like they're like, it's not like, at least to me, the way that I see it is like a lot of these events are kind of, at least in the industry, they're kind of nerdy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to put my own taste to it, right? And then none of them focus on personal development or like being a better you, versus like, you know, this new product that fucking came out that we can use to make more money or whatever.
Yep.
You know, so it's like I just want to put my own taste to it, keep it local, keep it sweet, keep it, you know, interactive, fun, legit people.
Yes.
Kind of like my idea to it.
Mm-hmm.
Casual meetup, you know.
Yeah.
Just show up. At least now, like the ones that we've hosted before, it's like we just show up. We let everybody like 30 minutes before everybody shows up, before I order the food. We already have a tab under our name, you know. But when a good amount of people are in, we order food, you know, then we just start chatting. So it's just casual talk really the whole time.
Yeah.
But what we did in the last one though was like, I would have like a speaker there, or one of my friends talk about, like I had one friend talk about, I was sending them, I was like, I see that you're having momentum in social media, like you're on vacation and you're fucking closing deals, like you're dropping your podcast every single week, like consistently. You're always recording, you're always doing this, sending offers and shit. And I'm like, how did you create your own momentum? So I had him talk about like that, how he created his own momentum, you know, to everybody at the table. So it's kind of a little bit more structured now versus everybody's chatting about whatever.
Yep.
And then we didn't have that many people this past time. So we also went around the table and it's like, what is your biggest problem we could help with? So, you know, it was very personal.
Yeah, that's cool. You get a ton of value from it. So here's a couple pieces that I like about it. Biggest one here that you may or may not have thought of is, since you are the organizer of this event, that also makes you the people connector. People look up to you immediately because of that, right? Like they kind of put you on a pedestal, and I don't mean that from a cocky perspective whatsoever. I think it's a good thing, right? It gives you an elevated status somewhere in the community.
Yeah,
because most people don't have the balls to go out there and put themselves out there like you have. And even if you're not speaking at this thing, you are the person you're the one who put all this together. You're the one who got all the people in the room. You're the one who's done all the marketing. You reached out and said, hey, you should come to this. It's cool people. You're going to meet somebody. You may do some business over here. I think that's awesome. The other aspect of it is, since you have that elevated position, since people know that you put this together, they may go and meet somebody there. They may start doing business with that person. What is also happening on the subconscious level is it's unlocking the law of reciprocity back to you. Because if it wasn't for Irvin, I wouldn't have met, John Smith over there, the contractor who just gave me a $30,000, custom granite countertop to install for this other customer, right? So that kind of shit's going to happen the more that you do this. I think it's beautiful. The other thing here is my assumption is that you have got some business from it as well on the electrical company.
Yeah. Small, but yeah, we have, and even like directly from the podcast too, which is tied into the events.
Got it. Yeah, that's brilliant, man. What's the game plan for you to kind of market them and push them out and tell people in your local community that the event's kicking off?
So we have the events on the Eventbrite.
Yep.
Like that's where it's at. And then we're doing like we're paying $50 a month just so it can be like highlighted or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like every time we have new people, like every month we have somebody new that we didn't have before that I don't even know,
Yep.
I also started doing like a meetup or meetup.com.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a group there, and so I'm going to start using that. And then I need to start using Facebook groups too. So really everywhere where I can promote that there's a group or an event around construction,
mm-hmm.
like personal development and construction, that I'll go ahead and do it. And then aside from that, like my socials, and I DM a lot of my friends personally too.
Yeah, that's smart. I think it's awesome. So from a marketing perspective, are you capturing everyone's information who's come to the past meetups?
Yeah, I have all the emails.
Yeah, perfect.
Whenever they buy a ticket or give me a business card or something, I have their.
Yeah. Yeah, because my theory on that is, hey, you've got the info at this point. Make sure you're remarketing out to them and letting them know when the next event's coming. Because it's the kind of thing. It's like, yeah, it could be the same event, could be very similar people. But there's always something new that's happening in everyone's lives, and there's always going to be one or two new people who come into the room who may change everything for everyone who's in there. So it's the kind of thing where the more you can get into the room, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have everybody's info, and like I put them all in the email list. So what I'm doing is like last Monday I had a Monday motivational post or whatever.
Yeah.
Sent out, and then I didn't have one this Monday, but this morning, I had one sent out for the podcast that dropped today.
Nice.
So I think eventually I want to get to having one on Monday and on Tuesday, like just Monday motivation and then Tuesday podcast.
Why not?
And then and then later down the week, just what's it called, like reminding them of the event that's coming up.
Yeah.
As we get closer to the day.
Yep. The event reminders.
Yeah.
I agree, man. I think it's brilliant. And I think it's something that a lot of people should start taking action on as well. And shit, man, you even got my wheels turning. Like, what can I do in and around the Dallas area? Even if there's only 10 people who come into a room, like, so what?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's literally 10 people who you're going to impact that evening for 2 or 3 hours.
It's 10 people that gave up their time to be there because they thought that they could get invited from.
Yep.
And I look at it like that. I'm like, shit, fuck, 10 people. It's nothing. I invited 50 people.
Yeah.
10 showed up, or 5 showed up, but it's like, I'm gonna get this 5 human beings that said, like, you know what? I'm gonna go to this guy's event for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because I think there's something good there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, shit.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Dude, it's been awesome. So all right, let's wrap this up here. Last question I got for you.
Yeah.
From now until the end of the year, which you have a little bit more than a quarter, a little bit more than 90 days. From now until the end of the year, what are you going to accomplish?
Really? I'm gonna have that kick-ass event in November.
Yep.
Like that's going down for sure.
Yep.
We finished all the back-end emails that you told me about yesterday.
Good.
So everything's already ready to go.
All right. Yeah. Launch that sucker, man. Kick it out. I think that's going to be good for you as well. So if people want to learn about this event that you got going on in November, which by the way, it's not a small pop-up. This is a bigger event you're trying to do. Where can they go learn about the event? Where can they connect with you?
You go to my Instagram. It's just Irvin Retiz.
Mm-hmm.
I have the event link in my bio. Or if you just want to go to constructionroyaltylive.com.
Nice. Love it, dude. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming here today. I appreciate you giving me some of your time. And I just always love chopping it up with you and learning some of the new cool things you got, because I think that your mindset and your perspective on things is just leaps and bounds above what is average for people who are in your age bracket. So, and I think it's a really good thing. And I want you to continue doing it because I think you're just killing it.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, man.
So, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.